The most valuable work you will ever do is the work people never see. Have you ever been in a situation where you hired someone to do some work for you? Then, after watching them do it and receiving the bill, you felt robbed? Maybe the time and effort it took to carry out the task seemed too trivial, and you're wondering in your mind, but I could have done that myself. This has happened to most of us before. A story is told of a large ship carrying many passengers whose engine suddenly failed. Nobody on board could fix it. So they brought an old engineer with decades of experience. He walked slowly around the engine for a while, listening, observing, thinking. Eventually, he reached into his toolbox, pulled out a small hammer, and tapped a single spot on the engine twice. Immediately, the engine roared back to life. A week later, the ship owners received an invoice for $10,000. Outraged that someone would charge so much for just tapping an engine with a hammer, they demanded an itemized breakdown of the bill. The engineer replied, tapping the engine twice, $2, $1 per tap. Knowing where to tap, $9,998. The point of the story is simple. You were not paying for the two taps. They were paying for the decades of knowledge, experience, and judgment that made those two taps possible. Expertise isn't measured by how long the final task takes. It's measured by the value of the insight behind it. I recently experienced something similar. Someone came across my book and asked how much it cost. When they heard the price, their immediate response was, "For less than 100 pages?" I smiled. They were judging the value of the book by the number of pages. Now that's their level of reasoning. But when I buy a book, I don't count pages. I ask myself one simple question. How much can this book transform my life? A good book may contain decades of someone's failures, lessons, victories, and experience compressed into less than 100 pages. You're not paying for the paper or the resources it took to print the book. You're paying for the wisdom that took someone years, sometimes decades, to acquire. The pages are simply the container, but the real value is in what is contained in those pages and how it shapes your life as you go through it. Unfortunately, many of us have been conditioned to measure value by effort instead of results. We assume that if something looks easy, then it isn't valuable. We are often tempted to trivialize certain results because of what we see on the surface, without acknowledging everything that must have happened below the surface. But in most cases, the opposite is true. The easiest work you would ever watch is usually the hardest work to learn. When a surgeon completes a complex operation in 45 minutes, you're not paying for 45 minutes. You're paying for the 20 years it took them to become the kind of person who could perform that surgery in 45 minutes. When a musician delivers a breathtaking performance in 5 minutes, you're not paying for 5 minutes. You're paying for the thousands of hours nobody saw. When an experienced consultant walks into a room, asks 3 questions, and solves a problem that has lingered for months, you're not paying for the questions. You're paying for the experience that taught them which questions to ask. You see, the world celebrates performance, but performance is merely the visible expression of years of invisible preparation. Let me say it again. Performance is merely the visible expression of years of invisible preparation. Which brings me to the first lesson I want you to take away today. Spend more time working on yourself than you do working on your job. Your employer pays you for what you can do today, but life rewards you for who you become. Every book you read, every skill you develop, every difficult project you take on, every mistake you learn from, every hour you spend sharpening your craft, they all increase the value of your knowing where to tap. The most valuable work you will ever do is the work people never see. That investment may not pay off immediately, but one day someone will look at what seems like an effortless result and wonder why you are charging so much. They'll only be seeing the two taps. They won't see the years behind them. The second lesson is just as important. Never allow someone else's inability to recognize your value convince you that you have no value. Not everyone is qualified to evaluate your work. Someone who has never written a book may only see the number of pages. Someone who has never built a business may only see the profits. Someone who has never mastered a skill may only see the final performance. People value things according to their level of understanding. Don't let that become your standard. At the same time, this isn't an excuse to overvalue yourself. Your confidence must be backed by competence. Your price must be justified by your value. And your value must be evident in your results. At the end of the day, the market doesn't reward what you think you are worth. It rewards the problems you can solve. So here's my challenge for you this week. Stop asking, how can I make more money? Start asking, how can I become more valuable? Read more, learn more, practice more, sharpen your thinking, master your craft. Because the marketplace doesn't reward you according to how hard you work. It rewards you according to the problems you can solve. The bigger the problem you can solve, the greater your value becomes. Remember, tapping twice may only cost $2, but knowing where to tap is worth $9,998. Go and become the kind of person who knows where to tap. Share this with someone and have a beautiful week ahead. Until next time, keep being amazing. My name is Murphy Nnamdi Ochuba.